Good morning and welcome to Jasper County High School and Dr. Tyson Harty's film lab. I would like to thank him for setting this up for us, live streaming this event for us. We have two distinguished graduates from Jasper County High School today. So thank you to Dr. Harty. We had a few little technical issues as we got going, but I think we're in good shape right now. I also like to thank, I can see Chris Ray in there operating the cameras and the equipment. So thank you, Chris, for helping out, and Dr. Harty's students. So February is Black History Month, and Black History Month is an annual celebration of achievement by Black Americans in a time for recognizing the central role of African Americans in U.S. history. Today we have with us two distinguished graduates of Jasper County High School, Coach Chris Pennaman, that you see at all the basketball games and works in our school, and Mr. Jerry Williams, who is our transportation director. He's been around here for a while. I've known Jerry since back in the 90s. And these are two great men. A lot of times we'll bring an outside person in, but why bring an outside person in when we have two great men like this that can really talk about some of the history of Black history and some of their experiences here. So this is kind of a casual conversation. We're just sitting down with these guys and talking a little bit. I'm going to ask them questions, and they're going to kind of discuss a little bit about themselves. I'd like to start off with Mr. Williams. You could tell us a little bit about your background, how long you've been here, your family, your teaching position. Just give us a little background about how you got to be a transportation director.
Thank you, Mr. Cain. Well, I'm originally from Jasper County. I went to originally Jasper County Training School at the old Washington Park across town at Fred Smith Street, and it was changed to Washington Park School. And it was the Black and Gold Indians. And then in 1970, we went into integration where all the students came together. It was amazing how kids that we played with outside of school, but we couldn't go to school with them. 1970, we all came together, went to the same bathroom, ate in the same cafeteria, and had enjoyed the same teachers. I always had an interest for auto mechanic. And it's amazing how we in this old auto lab. When I was in high school, my teacher was Randy Greenway, and I sit in the classroom and I always wanted to be I said, I would love to be an automotive instructor like Mr. Greenway. And after going to military for 7 years as a wheel vehicle mechanic and as an instructor in the military, training other people to work on wheel vehicle auto mechanics, basically, and come back home after 7 years to take care of my family. Mom and dad both were disabled, so my wife and I came back home to take care of them. We're looking for a job, worked at Georgia Pacific for 11 months. My former automotive teacher was there working on forklift, Randy Greenway, and he told me there was a job position that I qualified for with my background in automotive, and he told me that military could transfer some credits, and but I wasn't interested in it till someone called me one day and asked me about applying for the high school automotive teacher position. And once I always dreamed of going to UGA, didn't have the money to go. I took community college classes while I was in the military and had some college credits. And once I accepted the job with Jasper County Board of Education, the teaching certification had to take place, and they sent me to University of Georgia 3 summers. Military paid for part of it, and I guess Board of Education paid for the other. So, I mean, God had just been in my plan the whole time, and God's plan is not our plan, and we realize that once we get older. But after 13 years of teaching automotive, I found a strong interest in the special needs students, finding something for them to do with their hands. And then the position came open for transportation director in the year of 2000. I applied for it, didn't think I was going to get it, and I ended up getting the job and have been in that position ever since. And I love taking care of my employees and making it safe for them and making it safe for every child in Jasper County to have a ride to and from school and school activity.
Mr. Williams, I know over the years I've just watched you, and we're probably about the same age, but you've kind of been a mentor to me as I've been in the teaching profession and the principalship, so I get some advice from you a lot of times, and so I appreciate that. We'll tell a funny story on Mr. Williams. We were riding down the road one day and had a flat tire. And so my wife said, oh no, I got to change a flat tire. My wife says, I'll change it. I'm like, you can't change a flat tire. She said, yes, I can. Mr. Jerry Williams taught me how to change a flat tire in automotive in high school. So she still remembered that.
Yeah.
Also here to my right, I got Chris Pennaman. Chris was a athlete here at Jasper County High School, basketball and track. Unlike Mr. Williams has been here his whole life. Coach Pennaman has moved around a little bit, as coaches do. So I'd like him to tell you a little bit about himself and kind of his past and how he ended up here in Jasper County.
Well, first, let me thank you, Coach Cain, for allowing me to speak. Born and raised in Jasper County, graduated. Actually took this man's class, like your wife. He taught me how to change oil, change tires, work on minor stuff on the car. So I thank him for that opportunity. I took his class quite a few times. And sometimes he would say, Chris, no, you don't need to be back in here. He still let me in because there was always something else to learn. And he was one of those mentors I had to look up to growing up. Graduated from '93, went off to college to Truett McConnell to play basketball as a walk-on, hurt my knee going into my sophomore year, so the basketball dreams were over. And I kind of got lost, so I joined the military. Spent time in the military, and then got activated quite a few times. Never really saw any real fighting. A lot of my stuff was stateside for some reason. I had 2 MOSs, was petroleum supply, so I refueled anything that ran off what we would call gas, but in the military is petroleum. Then I also was a nuclear, chemical, biological person, so I was one of the first ones to go in to check a contaminated area. And each unit needed to have at least 1 NBC sergeant, and that was my rank, and we had 3 in our unit, so I would get shipped off to different units when got activated. Came back, I was going to Georgia State at the time, and really was going to school to be a lawyer. Got a chance to coach a rec basketball team, and at that point, I saw what God wanted me to do and work with kids, and started coaching. And the rest is history. Went to the middle school first. I always said that if I ever had the opportunity to come back home to coach, I would take it. But I always thought it would be that retirement job. You know, that'll be my last one, so to speak. But honestly, I got it 4 years ago, and it's been very good to me. Very rewarding to come back home, see the people I grew up with, see the mentors that are still here who poured into me to show them what I was able to do from what they had taught me. So that's a little bit about me. Like I said, been here 4 years and still looking forward to a few more years as long as I have.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you here. And you mentioned a little bit. Well, I will say basketball team's doing well, and we're set to go into the state playoffs.
Yes,
so
sir.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You did mention some mentors. Tell me about maybe some mentors. Maybe some African American, maybe some not. Who have been some mentors of yours over the years as you've excelled? I've been very impressed with your military career. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute, but I know that has such a big impact. But what are some influences that affected you over the years?
Growing up in Monticello, a lot of my uncles, the Pennamans, but you talk about in the school system, that was him. I didn't see, growing up, I had Larry Jester when I was in elementary school. I didn't see many teachers like myself. So anytime I saw an African-American male teacher, I kind of flocked to him. In high school, we didn't have that many. It was really the PE teachers and Mr. Williams. So that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed taking his class. Because I didn't have a father figure. My dad died when I was 1.
Right.
So my uncle stepped into that role, but as a teacher, he was longing for that relationship. And he was a father figure as well as a teacher. So he gave me a lot of life lessons. If stuff went wrong, I could come talk to him. Me and one of my good friends, both of us, he would talk to us about anything, whether it was relationships, it was school, going off to college. The one thing he always poured into me, Chris, you're a very smart kid, go to college, get a degree. But if you had to say the one role model I had, it was my mom. She's the reason I'm a teacher. She was a teacher for over 35 years. Mm-hmm. It was her. My mom poured into me, help other people.
Well, good. That's great to hear. We all have role models. How about you, Mr. Williams? Who's some folks that influenced you over the years?
Well, like I said, we started at Jasper County Training School, and at that time, all of my teachers were African Americans. Second grade, we went to a semi-integration and had 2 brand new white female teachers, and For some reason, they put all the smart kids from first grade in those two teacher classrooms. I mean, when you start talking about history, I can give you some history. But over the years, especially coming back to teach, well, in high school, I want to say Mr. Howard Smith and Miss Frances Smith. They were sister and brother. Frances Smith was language art English teacher. Mr. Howard Smith taught social study and history, and he taught every student that came in his class, no matter what color they were, he taught black history all year long. There was always something involved, and he would include it in his test. And I just remember that as being part of our school from 75 to 79 in high school, no matter what color we were. If you took Mr. Howard Smith history class, you got some black history. And, you know, as a black person, there was a lot that we didn't know. And, you know, as white friends, there was a lot that they didn't know. They didn't know that black people invented all this stuff. But it was taught on, as part of his curriculum. He included in his curriculum every day. Once I became a teacher, my mentor was Coach Lester Davis, who was a winning basketball coach. He was a health teacher, and he was an assistant principal. And he was a mentor for me and basically told me exactly what not to do, told me what I could do. One thing he told me was, as a young man, he always pointed his finger like this, a young man, don't look at nothing twice. And I didn't get it at first, but then I realized what he was talking about. It made sense. Also, Mr. Dan Arp, Miss Alicia Moore's father, we grew to be real close friends. He built my house for no labor. You know, you don't find people like that anymore. It's hard to find people like that. And, you know, those people you think they are in heaven looking at us. But I followed him a lot, and for his administrative skills, I picked up a lot of skills from Dan Arp and Lester Davis, and they really played a lot in my role in education. And at the end of 7 years, I was thinking about getting out of education. I can make more money repairing cars, put up shop of my own. Dan Arp said, God has a calling on you, and I think this is it, and this is where you need to be. End of that year, I was teacher of the year, and I told him, y'all just gave me teacher of the year so I could stay.
We're glad you stayed. I think back to those days when I first started teaching in the 90s, and you were actually an automotive teacher then. I just think of the unity that was with that group of men, you know, Mr. Arp and Mr. Jimmy Jerd, and I missed out on Coach Davis, but you know, I've heard so many stories about Coach Davis. I did get to meet him a time or two in those days, and also I'd have to mention Miss Ruby Griggs, the influence that she had on people, and me as a young coach. I can remember Miss Griggs coming into a locker room one time with the boys who weren't acting, and she took care of business. So that just came to my mind. Just recognized Miss Ruby Griggs as a great person who was that. Monticello is a very unique place in Jasper County High School. We're a bit removed from some of the political turmoil, but if you turn on the TV, it's just turmoil and things that happen. And we have some issues here, but you know, I feel like we're kind of a unique place. What would you say to the student body about, you know, just unity and working together, and how we can be an influence moving forward in a world of discourse right now?
Well, the best thing to do is don't look at the news, because news will throw you off track. It will change your mind. And, you know, from a minister's side, I always tell people, the devil gets in your mind. If he can get to your mind, he don't want your job, or he don't want to work. But if he can disturb your mind and throw you off track, and then you end up on a negative side. So be consistent, do what's right, follow instruction, follow guidelines, obey your parents.
Good, that's good. You're starting to preach a little bit, Reverend. So, but that's great. That's great advice. You know, as many times I sit down with students, and supportive parents make a huge difference.
Yes.
Coach, what would you say about that? Just you work with athletes, and you know, I love sports and grew up in it. And what would you say to that as we move forward? You know, how can we promote just unity and working together in the world today that seems so chaotic?
I mean, sports itself shows how it works. Look at the teams we have; they're very diverse. It's like Mr. Williams said, you got to look at the spirit and the heart of a man versus what you see on TV. I look at people all the time. I worked in another district before here that was even more diverse than this one. When I teach a kid or I work with a parent, I look past the outer and look into their heart and see what their heart is all about. When you do that, you see what someone's heart is, you see what someone's spirit is. It's easy. Just look past the outer exterior, because a lot of times the persona or the first impression may not be the right impression. So with our student body, we do a good job, I think, of getting along, but we all have our differences, but at the same time, we all here for a common goal as educators to educate the students and help them have a better life. So
I think those are two great answers. When I talk to students, and y'all are a great example of that, you don't really look at race or color. You just look at the kid and look at the people. As we're in society, we want to recognize Black History Month, but we really, as I look at y'all look at the person. Y'all look at the kid. You don't really look at some of that other stuff. So I think that's great advice. What advice would you give, Mr. Williams, would you give our students today? What advice, if I know you've raised a great family, you're around kids every day, what's some advice you can give some students as we move forward?
Pay attention to adults, pay attention to teachers and parents. Like I said, again, follow instructions that's given. My major question is, what is wrong with right? And a lot of people can't answer that. They can't tell you nothing because they're not doing right. So practice doing what's right, and right follows right.
I was always like when you come over and we deal with, I don't like dealing with discipline issues, but whenever you work with you in a discipline issue, it's just straight, you're fair, you're honest, you tell a kid what the problem is, you still love them, and I think that's a great example. It's been I've used a lot of your techniques as we deal with students in all different areas, me and Ms. Strength and Ms. Moore, so thank you for being that example.
I usually don't come unless I got evidence.
When you come, it's a slam dunk.
Right.
You do. So, what are some of your favorite memories of Jasper County? You did 35 years in education and all these different experiences you've had. If you look back over the past, what are some of your favorite memories?
Been so long and so old, I can't remember. But dealing with people. Once I went from the classroom as a teacher. Jimmy Jordan was the principal, and his thing was see how many parent contact you can make, good or bad. And I wanted a lot because I made a lot of parent contact. And we had like a focus group of kids that we met after school. And I invited the parents, those parents after school, and I have chicken wings and Cokes and chips, and all the parents would come. So I get those points for parent contact.
That's kind of what a preacher does. Yeah. You feed them, they'll come.
So the parent would come, and I counted that as parent contact. And the same thing now with transportation. I call parents at night after hours when I have time and just let them know what the kid's doing or not doing or what we need to talk about. I enjoy people. And I'm a people person. First 10 seconds, I just about can figure out people. So I enjoy people, and that's just what God wants me to do.
It works. And I noticed Coach Pennaman, I'll get some emails and see where he's contacted students in his classes that are good and bad sometimes. Things that they need to work on. You can't just always go to the negative part, but Coach is very good about the positive. Hey, your students make some progress. They're getting better and better. So I think that's a good example, and many of our teachers you're listening today, they do that. I think we have a school that is that works together, and we have our problems just like anybody else does. But if I tell a lot of folks, you walk through our school during lunchtime, you'll see the character of our kids. They're sitting quietly, they're eating, they clean up their food. It's just a good student body and a good school. One thing that we're going to have we always have disagreements. We may have disagreements about certain issues, problems, things that we don't agree about. It may be politics, it may be something else. Coach, what do you say? How would you relate to kids about how can we get past these differences? How can we work through those? We're going to have different opinions. How can we be respectful and work through some of that?
It's an old saying, you got to sometimes agree to disagree. Just because we may not have the same view or same opinion doesn't mean we can't work together. You got a common goal, trying to achieve it, you can put those differences aside to achieve those goals. It's just, I look at my basketball team. We all got different goals. Each kid has a goal for themselves, but you also have that overall goal. And you have to be able to put that individual goal to the side sometimes and work towards it. Everybody's gonna disagree. You're gonna have disagreements. I'm not gonna totally agree with everything you wanna do, but what I have can benefit what you're trying to do, and what you have can benefit me. And if you do those type of things, you can move forward and achieve great things. As we've seen in Jasper County, that's what this man taught me in class. There was plenty of times we disagreed with some of the things our classmates wanted to do, but one thing Mr. Williams always said was, we're gonna agree to disagree, but this is what we're moving towards. So how can that group come together and accomplish this task? And eventually you sit down and say, okay, we got to get this task done. So hey, forget what you're saying, forget what I'm saying. We got to get on this, and you make it work.
All right, great advice. What would, as we kind of end up, what would you say to just the importance of recognition of Black History Month, the Black Americans in our society, your roles here? The students need to understand that. What's important about that? Why is it important we do this?
Oh, we all need to know where we come from, no matter what color we are. All of us have some history, so it is important to know, what Black people have done in society. A lot of times it has not been recognized, been on the back burner. And like I said, Mr. Howard Smith, he taught Black history all year long as he included in part of his curriculum, no matter what student was in his classroom. But it is important to know about our history, know who made the traffic light, or who made the iron or sewing machine, and it's important for our kids to know that. And I want to go a little bit on the agree and disagree thing. And I was thinking about it as Coach Pennaman was talking. I look at my family. I married my high school sweetheart, and we've been together. We've been married 37 years. We disagree. We agree to disagree, but we never go to sleep mad with each other. That's why we've been together. And I still call her my bride now. Bride is the person you marry, so you love them when you married them, so you got to still love them 37 years later.
Right, right.
So, I mean, you got to find that common ground, as Coach Pennaman say, to come to that, bring all of it to the table together and put it together and make it work. And that's the same way it is with Black history. Black history is 1 month that we recognize what Black people have done, but it's like Mr. Howard Smith again. Why don't we add it, put something in every month, right. 1 day out of the month. Right. Let different kids come up with something 1 day out of the month. Just make it not just February.
Kind of part of our society.
Yeah, make it part of the society.
I think that's true. So it's been great to sit down with y'all, and congratulations on your retirement. I told you when you're going out, I'm going out, so I'm going out with you. And Coach Pennaman, thank you for your influence here. We've got y'all. These are just two examples of our student body, regardless of race. Good example of Black Americans that have excelled. As you hear their story, you can see just how intelligent they are and where they've come from. And I hope you students just realize what you have here, and the ability to see these men as leaders, and other men and women across the our school culture. And we look forward just to keep moving forward. We look forward to you helping lead us and get there. Students, we hope this is helpful for you. We're thankful for being able to recognize this time, and we appreciate you being in here. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Cain, for having us.
Right.
Thank you.
All right.
Very much.
Have a great day. Thank you.